When Hurricane Katrina tore through New Orleans in 2005, it didn't just flood homes and break levees. It ripped out the heart of a community. The lower Ninth Ward, one of the hardest hit neighborhoods, was left a wasteland of broken houses, abandoned lots, and shattered lives. The disaster left a wound so deep that 2 years later, when Brad Pitt walked through the wreckage, he claimed he felt an almost spiritual pull. Here was Hollywood royalty, the golden boy with a jawline carved out of marble, standing among ruins and promising hope. His grand idea to build not just houses, but futuristic, eco-friendly homes that would be so innovative they'd become a model for how to rebuild communities everywhere. With cameras flashing and celebrities lining up to endorse the cause, Pitt launched the Make It Right Foundation in 2007. And for a brief moment, it looked like a miracle was underway. The pitch was irresistible. Pitt partnered with starchitects like Frank Gehry, David Adjaye, and Shigeru Ban, and together they envisioned bold, angular homes painted in bright colors, each one LEED Platinum certified. These weren't just houses, they were supposed to be monuments to resilience, to green innovation, to the idea that disaster could be rewritten into opportunity. The homes were designed to use 70% less energy than conventional ones, built with sustainable materials, and priced at $150,000 so families could afford to return. Pitt promised 150 houses, a neighborhood reborn from the ashes. Celebrities rallied behind him. Ellen DeGeneres co-hosted a gala with him. Rihanna sang, Kanye West performed, Sheryl Crow and Seal lent their voices, and Oprah cheered it on from the sidelines. In one glittering night at the Hyatt Regency, $5 million poured in. New Orleans looked at Brad Pitt not as a Hollywood outsider, but as a savior, someone who had chosen their broken city to play his biggest role yet. By 2013, 90 homes had been built. By 2015, the final tally reached 109. Pitt stood on stages grinning, telling the world this was proof that rebuilding after disaster didn't have to mean compromise. The project became a tourist attraction, buses rolling by to show off the funky, futuristic houses where families once again grilled on porches and kids played in yards. For a while, the lower ninth glowed with hope. Reporters wrote glowing features, philanthropy experts hailed Pitt as a model celebrity humanitarian, and then the paint began to peel. What started as whispers soon became a flood of complaints. Families who had been handed the keys to their dream homes found their walls rotting. The futuristic wood product, timber sile, touted as green and toxin-free, couldn't withstand New Orleans' swampy humidity. Decks crumbled, porches collapsed, and mold crept across walls. The architectural marvels, with their bold angles and avant-garde shapes, proved to be nightmares in the southern climate. Roofs leaked, ventilation systems failed, electrical wiring sparked. Some families reported gas leaks, others developed health issues from the mold spreading silently through their walls. A house designed by world-renowned architect David Adjaye was eventually declared in imminent danger of collapse and demolished. The dream neighborhood was decaying like a film set abandoned after the cameras stopped rolling. By 2018, residents had had enough. They filed lawsuits against Make It Right, accusing Pitt's foundation of selling them defective homes that endangered their lives. The suits painted a damning picture. Corners cut, calls ignored, offices closed, and promises broken. Residents said that when they reached out for help, their pleas went unanswered. One by one, families were forced to abandon their homes. By 2022, researchers estimated that only 6 of the 109 homes remained in reasonably good shape. The rest were uninhabitable husks, boarded up or collapsing. What had begun as a utopian vision now looked like a graveyard of failed dreams. The lawsuits dragged Pitt into the headlines. His name suddenly tied not to architecture awards or philanthropy, but to mold and negligence. Though insiders insisted Brad had stepped away years earlier and others took over, residents remembered him as the face of the project. His presence had been the reason they trusted Make It Right in the first place. Now, they felt betrayed. One community leader, Linda Jackson, said bluntly that the majority of Pitt's houses stood empty, monuments to good intentions gone spectacularly wrong. The irony was sharp. Pitt had promised eco-conscious design, but the very features meant to make the homes revolutionary were their downfall. The bold architects who sketched futuristic silhouettes didn't consider the brutal reality of New Orleans' heat, rain, and humidity. The timber seal wood rotted, ventilation systems trapped moisture, and mold flourished in homes that were supposed to last generations. Families who once cheered when Brad Pitt handed them house keys now found themselves paying for repairs they couldn't afford. Some fell sick, sick, others moved out, and still lawsuits piled up. The foundation, once flush with donations and celebrity backing, went silent. By 2015, it had stopped building, stopped filing tax forms, stopped updating its website. By 2018, NBC News reported it had all but disappeared. The downtown New Orleans office was shuttered. Staff had been cut to a skeleton crew. Residents left messages, but the phones went unanswered. The foundation that had arrived with fanfare and Rihanna concerts had ghosted the very people it claimed to save. The lawsuits reached a climax in 2022 when Make It Right agreed to a $20.5 million settlement for homeowners. But even that solution unraveled. The settlement was supposed to be paid by Global Green USA, another nonprofit stepping in to cover the costs. Months later, Global Green announced it couldn't afford the payout. Families were left hanging once again, caught in a legal purgatory, while their homes rotted around them. The disaster of Make It Right became more than a local scandal. It turned into a cautionary tale about celebrity philanthropy. Brad Pitt's name had drawn in donors, architects, and stars. His charisma sold the dream. But critics now argued that this was the problem. A Hollywood star wasn't the right person to oversee long-term community rebuilding. Designing flashy homes for magazine spreads was one thing. Building safe, durable housing in one of the harshest climates in America was another. One urban researcher described it bluntly: Make It Right was a perfect example of how good intentions, when combined with ego and lack of expertise, can lead to disaster. What makes the story sting even more is that for a while, it really did feel like a success. Walking tours of the lower ninth included the Pitt houses. Visitors marveled at the bright colors and dramatic roofs, taking selfies and praising Pitt's vision. Families smiled on their porches, grateful to have returned to their community. The project was even studied as a model for green housing in post-disaster zones. But beneath the surface, the rot was already setting in. To this day, Brad Pitt's defenders insist his intentions were pure. A source close to him told The Guardian in 2022 that he was obviously upset by what happened once he stepped back, suggesting the mess unfolded under others' watch. But the community remembers differently. To them, Pitt was the face of the project, the man who walked through their neighborhood and promised salvation. When the homes collapsed, so did the trust. The story of Make It Right has no Hollywood ending. The lawsuits dragged on. Families continued to fight for repairs or settlements. The neighborhood that was supposed to be a beacon of rebirth became instead a symbol of failed promises. Even today, many of the houses stand vacant, boarded up, silent monuments to the gulf between celebrity dreams and community reality. And yet, as messy as it is, the saga of Brad Pitt's charity continues to fascinate. It raises uncomfortable questions. Should celebrities be trusted to lead complex humanitarian projects? Is flashy innovation more dangerous than boring, time-tested design? And what happens when the face of the project, the movie star with the dazzling smile, walks away, leaving others to pick up the pieces? In New Orleans' lower ninth ward, those questions aren't academic. They're lived reality, written in mold-stained walls and collapsing porches. For Brad Pitt, the foundation's collapse left a permanent dent in his philanthropic legacy. In interviews, he still speaks about New Orleans with fondness, about the resilience of the community. But the residents of the lower ninth know better. They live among the ruins of his dream, the brightly painted houses that promised a future and delivered rot. What was supposed to be a feel-good story of celebrity generosity turned into one of Hollywood's most embarrassing philanthropic failures. And no matter how many movies Pitt makes, the images of those crumbling houses stand as a stark reminder. Sometimes the biggest disasters come not from hurricanes, but from the promises made in their aftermath.